somewhat replacement until a caloric or barter type economy eventually becomes the accepted norm. And here's the question to you. Do you see a time when the dollar will be shunned or not accepted anymore?
You mean like today? The dollar chart would make you think that that's right now.
Well, yeah, the dollar kind of broke down this week, huh?
No, it's terrible. And again, the only reason it is where it is it's an index against other currencies. You know, that's what's so deceptive about the way the dollar is measured, because we don't really look at it. Even if you look at it on an individual currency, you know, dollar yen, dollar euro, dollar, you know, whatever. But the index, the U.S., you know, we call it the POSX on the site, piece of excrement index. That's against a basket of currencies. And so the dollar is only going down versus other fiat. You know, I mean, that's not a very fair way to measure it. I mean, the true measure is versus real money, you know, gold or silver. But anyway, I got to go back. Hold on. I lost my train of thought again. It must be the half of a beer I had.
Dollar death.
Dollar death. Is it going to happen? Yes. There will be a point in time where it is shunned. You look at, again, the reflection of the dollar in the euro. Look at the highs the euro is making. What, the euro is that much? Really? It's only going up because there's no place else to go. You know what I mean? And you look, this is coming sometime in the next, as soon as the dollar index starts pushing 72, which is the low from early 2008. And again, beyond there be dragons. As soon as the dollar index starts pushing 72, every global problem will start coming. That might be the time you finally get war in the Middle East. That will be the time when Portugal, Greece, Spain, and Italy all go bankrupt at once, or at least are purported to be going bankrupt in the media. All of these things will be trotted out front and center as a reason to buy dollars and move out of these other fiat to try to save it. In your question, there was a question about, I think if I remember right, about gold and silver and barter, right? Would you? Because
yes.
I think you laid out a scenario where there is no unit of commerce besides actual gold and silver. And I don't think that'll happen. I don't think there's enough gold and silver and hard assets in the world to have I don't want to sound semi-Keynesian, but I don't think there's enough gold and silver and hard assets in the world to have a fully hard asset backed currency without causing deflation in everything else. I just don't know if that could happen. And what I talked about earlier is what I more envision, and that is that there will be, instead of a sovereign currency for the United States, the U.S. dollar will become part of a global unit. We may use the dollar to trade here within the United States, but the dollar may become part of a global unit of currency. Or as a worst case, there will be a global unit of commerce, of currency that has some backing, which will prohibit it from being openly devalued by politicians and bankers. And so, again, what as I'm planning for things, what I anticipate is being able to move my fiat wealth into precious metals to store the wealth that I've accumulated under this current system. My lifestyle, the lifestyle to which I've grown accustomed. Store it And then when the new currency is unveiled, because I don't expect just a global barter, medieval Mad Max kind of stuff. I think the world will move forward, but under a different currency regime, a different reserve currency regime. Then I can take my precious metals where I've stored my wealth and convert it back into that new currency regime. Does that make sense? You see what I'm...
Yes, to me it does.
Okay.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask another question.
No?
Okay. I'm going to elaborate a little bit on this one. Commodity exchanges were originally designed and operated to relieve the farmer or producer of the pressure to bring their product to market. This worked terrific for the most part back in the days.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to today's markets, we see the underlying commodity being less and less important to its paper contract. We see now a casino's circus with magic tricks as a requirement. We have delivery of contract not in the underlying commodity, but with paper money.
Yeah.
And all this backed up with the seal of approval by the FTC.
Yeah.
Not to make my question too long-winded, gold and silver exchanges are a very small in money size to most other exchanges, but their importance as true money have given these gargantuan sway. If precious metal contracts can be created out of thin air and delivered as an air-filled promise, which would be cash, how can our markets give us a true gauge of the real value of the underlying commodity?
Yeah. No, that's. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is that the end of the question?
There's a little more to it. If you want to answer that part, and then I'll continue with that. It's up to you.
Then see, that's the problem, and that's where, when we talked earlier about price discovery and using the COMEX, or the Chicago Board of Trade, or the LBMA, whatever, as this true price discovery method, I just think it's broken. And whether that final breaking takes place this month or in July or in 2012 or whatever, but the truth shall set you free. We have the truth on our side, and that is going to happen. I just don't know when.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, I'm going to continue with the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would it not be in the exchanges, or the plural, exchanges' best interest to allow markets through supply and demand to gauge the true value of the commodity, rather than manipulate the price to increase value, like as in oil, or decrease the value, as in gold and silver?
Yeah.
Is there a fix to this?
Yeah, you would think there would be. Yes, but I'm going to go back to normalcy bias and maintenance of the status quo and maintenance of power, because if you are running the exchange, you would rather, without being the metaphor man, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And if you're running the exchange, you know what you have, and you know how it works, and it gives you your power and your wealth. And though it might benefit you to reorganize under a more efficient, honest way, you don't know if that will allow you to keep your power, and so therefore you don't do it. And so I would be very surprised if they voluntarily instituted a change like that.
Okay, very, very good. Thank you. If you don't mind, one more question. Okay. All markets, as we know them, are paper-based markets. Mostly they can be summed up by an exchange of goods or promise for notes. In our case, the notes are debt-based. Let me call this liquidity. Lack of liquidity, the system dries up. Too much liquidity, the system overheats. If that is the case, can you give us an opinion of the massive liquidity injections ongoing by the private Federal Reserve? Why has this not stimulated our economy to overheat? And I thank you for the answers.
I might be getting beyond my level where I add anything of value. the first thing that comes to mind is the testimony by Bernanke and others that say, no, we're not monetizing, we're not printing money, we're digitizing money, as if there's a difference. The money that is being digitized and printed is going, well, primarily to the federal government to spend in transfer payments and military budget and everything else that they do. So in terms of that generating economic growth, was that the crux of your, why is it not generating economic growth? Is that
yes.
Yeah. Well,
yes, that's basically my question is, with all this money, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because that's an extremely inefficient use of that money. The money's still out there. And that's why everything that's dollar denominated is going up, because you're so increasing the supply of dollars. But it's such an inefficient use by giving. If you really wanted to create economic growth and you were going to monetize money, then print the frickin' money and just cut every of the 300 million Americans a check. They'll spend it efficiently, a heck of a lot more efficiently than the government will. Mm-hmm. And you get more temporary economic growth out of it. So I anyway, again, this is beyond, I may have an econ degree, but I'm not a PhD, that's for sure. So I don't know if I'm qualified to really speak on that with any authority.
Thank you for your answer nonetheless.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Turd. Since you mentioned or started talking about the Federal Reserve, just got a quick question here from forum member Perlon1. Bix Weir thinks that Alan Greenspan is a good bloke. What's your thoughts? And what do you think of the Federal Reserve and Alan Greenspan?
You can... I guess I almost got to this about 5 minutes ago. If from the time we went off the gold standard almost 40 years ago, almost exactly 40 years ago, I guess, to today, or if you look back to the creation of the Federal Reserve almost 100 years ago, have Americans prospered? Do we have what would appear to be more physical things, material things? Am I living in a nicer house? Do I have indoor plumbing? You could make a case that all of that has been beneficial. And so that's why and now I'm remembering where I was thinking this earlier. This was the, can you go back to a currency that is more zero sum in its effect of being fully backed by, and redeemable into a hard asset? And can you have that and really grow wealth, not only individually, but as a country? And I'm not sure. Again, just because what is almost a zero sum nature of it. And so, I don't think you can argue with legitimacy that having a Federal Reserve and expanding the money supply and having it not tied to a hard asset, just openly printing it, because it has helped more people than it would appear to have helped more people than it's hurt. I don't think you can argue that it is, the work of the devil. But it also, because it is unhinged, it allowed us to get in the situation that we're in. And so I would anticipate there will be, in Turd's world, and I haven't been voted dictator, emperor, or king yet, but in Turd's world, that would be some partially backed, rooted in a real value. That's the currency would be. That it would be partially backed with something with real value. It wouldn't just be a promise.